Hi, I'm Radek. I'm a developer advocate at QuickNode, and let's build something together. This video is a recording of a workshop that I did in preparation for ETHDenver hackathon, and in it we'll build an app from scratch. So what is it we are going to build? It's going to be an app that shows Ethereum 2 validators on Beaconchain, along with some stats and a leaderboard of validators that have the most ETH staked. What you will learn from this workshop. So first, how to quickly build an app from scratch, starting from completely zero. Second, how to connect to blockchain. Third, how to read and handle in your app lots of data from blockchain. I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of entries. Fourth, how to update your app state and visual data based on the data from the blockchain. Fifth, how to make your app look beautiful while still building it quickly and easily. And lastly, how to quickly deploy your app from localhost to a public URL or even your domain. Ready? Let's build.
What is it that you want folks to be able to walk away with by the end of today? What are at a high level, what are we going to try and cover?
Awesome. Yeah, I have a lot, and I'll try to move as quickly as possible while still explaining what I do and how I do it and showing and teaching. The app that we are going to build is, right now you can run validators, like Ethereum 2 validators, where you are staking your like 32 ETH stakes. That's 32 ETH is how much you need to run a validator and to stake on Beaconchain. So I want to have a leaderboard even of all the validators on Beaconchain, then show how many validators there are right now, different statuses of validators, there are quite a few, and then how much ETH is for each status of the validator. So basically what we will build and what you will learn as a result is, first of all, how to quickly build an app from scratch. We'll start from zero and we will end up as a like fully developed and nicely looking app. So that's the most important thing. So how to build from scratch. Second, how to connect to blockchain. We need to read from blockchain, and now especially importantly to read from Beaconchain, which is not as often used as, for example, Ethereum. Then how to get data from blockchain, and like lots of data, like hundreds of thousands of entries in one command, and then how to fetch it, how to play with it, how to sort it, how to slice it, how to present it, all of that. So basically we are working with frontend, we're connecting to backend, reading data from blockchain, and then also once we have all the data, how to make your app beautiful so that it looks right, it looks nice, but also it doesn't take much time to build. So you build it easily and quickly with some templates, which is also important when you, for example, present your project during a hackathon. If it's a fully launched project, it's like on a live URL, it's not on localhost, and it looks nice, you already are like above 90% of competition. So that's what I want to show, how to do it quickly and not worry about like all the presentation, like all how the app looks, and focus on how to make it work, how to program the logic, how to write a smart contract and everything else. And then as the last step, if we get to that, how to quickly deploy your app once it's ready. It's just like a few commands and your app is live on a live URL or even on your own domain, which you can get within minutes, so that you can just show off your app. So that's what I want to build, show, teach, and have as a result. So first of all, what is QuickNode? QuickNode is like an infrastructure for blockchain. It's an RPC node provider. To whatever you're doing and whatever you're building, you need to, if you're building on top of blockchain, you need to connect to blockchain. So you need to connect to an RPC node that is connected to blockchain, and then you need to be able to read that data from node, then to connect to write data back to blockchain. So that's like level 0, the infrastructure. So that's what QuickNode does. It takes away your problem of thinking about infrastructure. You get like one URL, which like one API endpoint. You connect it once in your app, and then you forget it. So that's level 0, like infrastructure. And then on top of that infrastructure, there are other products like core API, like API to talk to blockchain and to get all the data that you want without need to maybe fire like 5, 10, or 50 different commands and then stitching all the data together. You have API to take care of that, like core API to get data from blockchain, or token API to get ERC20 data, which is like all the cryptocurrencies, NFT API, quick alerts, real-time blockchain alerts like a Zapier or something like that. So a new product that was launched like a couple days ago. So basically, once you have the infrastructure, you can do a lot of things with it. So first thing that you need to do is you need to create a free account. There is a plan, create free account. You just need to fill this form. That's it. So it should take you 2 minutes. And once you fill this form, you will get to this dashboard where you will not have the endpoints. I have already 3, and you will need to create an endpoint. So that's what we need to connect to blockchain, an endpoint, an API endpoint that we will then enter into our app. We will work on mainnet, but if, for example, you are just developing your application and you are launching on testnet, then you can have an endpoint for Girly, for example, or for Sepolia. Select that, click continue, create an endpoint. And that's basically it. That's basically all that we need to do on QuickNode. We just need to, that's the API that we need. That we need to copy that. That's the only thing that we need. Now, we need to start building the app. We want to build quickly and easily, and we also want to be able to deploy quickly when we are ready. So that's why I decided to go with Next.js. And then it's very easy to, first of all, Next.js with Tailwind CSS. Why it's easy to develop, it's easy to make it nice with Tailwind, and then it's very easy to deploy to Vercel, for example, with a couple of commands when you're ready. So we want to focus on speed and efficiency, and also on good looks. We use the command create next app. We use the latest Next.js, and then we give the app name, the directory where we will have all our apps. So we create the app. It asks a few things. Defaults are fine with everything. Now it's building the app. And very soon we will have like the backbone of what we want to do and build. And right now we can already start seeing how it works. So this is the code. These are some of the pages, and we can already even launch the app. To launch the app, we run a command npm run dev. Let's try and do that. And this will be the default app. So localhost 3000, that's where the app is right now. Boom, we have the app. So right now, this is the default. So Next.js 13, we have some links here. We are on localhost. So that's step 1. And everything else that we will be doing, we will be customizing this app. We will be making it ours. We will be putting our own content here. We will be making it nice and useful as well. So we have launched the app. Now let's start making it beautiful. So we need to add Tailwind. Tailwind is the CSS library, npm install -d Tailwind CSS. And what this did is that it installed, and now we need to initiate that. So we run npx tailwind init, and it created a couple of config files. So we have Tailwind config file, which we need to now customize. Okay, so we have Tailwind, but I want to make it even easier, because Tailwind is useful when you use it a lot and you know all the class names and you know all the intricacies, or you have some already made templates. But there's another thing on top of Tailwind, which is like, again, levels, daisyUI. daisyUI is like simplifying the Tailwind CSS components, so simplifying the development to write fewer class names and with all the defaults that kind of look good, and you don't need to enter like 20 class names to start your app for your app to start looking good. You can start with the defaults that already look nice, and these are the components here, which you can very easily get with a couple of class names. So we will be installing this, and then using the C components, using this as the documentation. So, for example, the button.
Okay.
The button, what you do is just like you have this one line, and you get this nice looking button. Or like with this, a few simple lines, you already get those nicely looking buttons without the need of all the class names and writing like 5 lines of Tailwind CSS classes for one button to look good.
Okay, so quick recap. We went on to QuickNode and got our endpoint, and then we shifted over to our code editor, did a new Next.js app, and then layered on top Tailwind. I'm skipping a few details, but just from a structural perspective, that's where we're at. This is a clean Next.js app with Tailwind added to it.
Tailwind, and now we installed daisyUI, and now that we have installed it, we need to make sure that we are using it. So we already importing Tailwind here, so we need to first of all say where it will be used on pages directory, and these types of pages, JS, JSX, and also the plugins, one plugin, daisyUI, and that's it. We don't need anything else. A very simple configuration. Oh yeah, maybe one last thing. Because we are using Tailwind, we don't need all the CSS styles and globals. So yeah, here are some defaults. We don't need all that. It's already in Tailwind. We just need those three lines: Tailwind base, Tailwind components, Tailwind utilities, and everything else is taken care of by Tailwind, by daisyUI. So we just like delete all.
So if you save and then we go back to the localhost site that's already live in your browser, does it look different now?
It should look a little different. Boom, it is different because we don't have now all of that.
Great.
Exactly. So
Same content,
we changed the classes. So the fonts are different, the background is different. So we are removing a lot of what we don't need. Now, as we are here, we also don't need, let's say, these next SVG, 13 SVG, Vercel SVG. So we are deleting that. So, okay, we don't have it. We will soon replace the whole page here, which is pages index.js. So that's where we will make most of our magic, index.js. So that was what was displaying this Next.js, so this default page. So what we need to do is we need to remove all that. Here above the return function, we will have all the logic of our app, so all the functions, all the state variables where we will store all the data that we will then later need to display, and return, and everything inside return is what will be rendered on the page. So this is all default Next.js stuff. We do not need that. Replace it with something simple. So this is, we delete all that and replace it with this. We just have a head. We have a title, Ethereum 2 validators. Let's call our app Ethereum 2 validators. Let's make it capital, why not? Then let's say description is ETHDenver is coming, so we are celebrating. And then the only content that we will have is love ETHDenver for now. Let's see how it looks now with a few lines of code. Love ETHDenver. npm run dev, we have that. Yeah, so I needed to restart it for all the styles to be pulled in. So we have a dark background. We'll be building on dark. We are saying that love ETHDenver. So we are now, have a scaffold app. We are ready to build. We removed all the junk that we didn't need. We have a clean slate for us to start filling in. The last thing that we are going to need is, maybe not last, but very soon it will be the last before we start coding, is we need to be able to connect to blockchain. We need to be able to connect to blockchain, and for that we need an Ethers library. Ethers library is the library that lets you read and write from blockchain. And if the way we do that is npm install Ethers. But if you do that, what I tried earlier today is that then it installs the latest version of Ethers, like 6.03 or something like that, which is at the moment, at least with Next.js, is kind of broken, that it cannot connect to blockchain for some reason. There's some dependency that needs to be fixed. So the version that works, and this is how we install a specific version of library, not just Ethers, but whatever library we want. This is how we install that, and we're installing a specific version of the library, which is Ethers 5.7.2. And it will show up in our packages JSON. So what we have installed in packages. We have Next.js, we have daisyUI, and we have Ethers 5.7.2. Maybe not 5.7.2 or higher, but just 5.7.2 specifically. This means that it can be 250.1 or higher. But if we want a specific one, we just remove that that character, and we just have Ethers, that specific version. It doesn't allow you to use the higher version, which is exactly what we need in this specific case. And let's import Ethers and utilities from Ethers. So now we almost can connect to blockchain. What we need now is the RPC node that we will be able to connect with Ethers. And that RPC node, that API was this one. So this is what we want, and we want to, in order to then quickly deploy, we want to have it not hard coded into the file, because then if someone sees your code, for example, in a repository, they can copy your RPC API endpoint and use it themselves if it's not properly secured. So we want to store it in a new file, .env.local. And this is where we store variables that are kind of secret that we don't want to share. So next public is what we need to prepend all the variables that we want to be available to our app. So we are presenting next public and then calling it QuickNode RPC. And we'll have a look at this, copy, and paste it here. Usually this RPC, like API endpoint, you don't share with anybody. You keep it in a file that is not being then added to a repository. For example, git ignore. This is the list of files that will not be added to the repository. And as you can see, env.local is here. So we will not be committing this file to GitHub, for example. So nobody will be able to read that. It will stay on our local computer. It will not be online. And now we are ready to start playing with the app. Okay, so now we have a lot to do in terms of logic of the app. So what we want to do, we want, for example, beaconscan.com. This is like Etherscan, but for Beaconchain. And because there are no transactions or transfers or anything else, like normal transactions and transfers like on Ethereum, this is a little bit different. So what we want to do is we want to get all the validators that are on Etherscan and then check the current balance. So this is like, for example, validators leaderboard. So this is also something that we will want to build. We'll build a validators leaderboard. So we will first fetch all the validators from Beaconchain. We will sum all the values of Ether that they have there. So we will see what huge amount of Ether is stored, is staked on Beaconchain. We will build a leaderboard and we will present it in a nice way. And I will show different ways to read data from blockchain so that you can adapt it to what you need and when you need and what method you have available, because not always you have all the methods available. Okay, so what we will need. First of all, that's a lot of data that we need to pull. There are like more than 500,000, 518,000 active validators. And we want to pull all the data in. We want to pull all the validators, all the data for each individual validator, and then we want to operate on that data and slice and dice it and present the totals, the subtotals, and everything else. So in order to do that, you go to QuickNode, and you have all the documentation there for the core API that I mentioned earlier. So let's see, developers, documentation, and you have methods available that you can access. So these are for Ethereum. There are different blockchains available for you, different methods. So these are for Ethereum. And in Ethereum, we have also methods for Beacon. And you can see them here, ETH, V1, and Beacon. Whatever with Beacon is for Beaconchain. And we are particularly interested in Beaconchain, let's say validator balances. So there are a few ways that you can call the function. JavaScript, Ethers, and then you just like copy and paste to use in Ethers like we have right now. So that's a JSON RPC. So you are connecting to RPC node, you get the JSON back, that's the JSON RPC method. So that's easy. You just copy that and add some elements that you need, some arguments, and you get everything back. But with this one, as you can see, only the CURL is available, which means that it's not a JSON RPC method. This is a REST API method. You need to hit the URL. Let's see how it works. So let's copy that. Let's get back to our terminal and see how it works. So this is how it works. So this is the URL, QuickNode Pro ETH v1. Beacon states had validator balances. We need to replace this with the API that we got. So we've got the API here. And let's replace that and now fetch the URL with a CURL. And let's see if it works. Boom, it works. So we are getting back this huge array with all the balances. So as you can see, balance 32. So that's 32 with some, which is the staking rewards. And it's like more than 500,000 records in the array. So that's what we will be getting from blockchain. Now, how to get that, how to store that, and how to then display all the information there. Let's start with a few variables. So these are the state variables that we are setting in code at the top, which we will then use later on. So this is like empty slots that we will later use to store the data. So the empty slot for total balance, the empty slot for validators, which will be all the validators. So that would be a huge array that we will store there. Otherwise, we don't have anywhere to store. So we fetch the data from blockchain. What do we do with it? We need to store it somewhere, and that's the state variable that will let us do that. Validator balance and leaderboard. So that's for later, which we will use later on, but we are setting the state variables here. And once we have that, those variables, maybe let's start with something easy. Beaconchain smart contract. So Beaconchain smart contract. So let's go to Etherscan. So on Ethereum, there is a smart contract where you stake. So this is what it says. So this is the contract URL. So the contract address, actually. This is Beacon deposit contract. So this is where the smart contract for depositing is. So what I want to do is, first of all, I want to see the balance in that smart contract on Ethereum, and then to fetch all the data from Beaconchain and then compare. Are those similar? Are those not similar? If they're not similar, then what is happening here? And the reason that I want to do is that getting data from Etherscan is different than getting from Beaconchain. So I want to show both methods. This one from Ethereum is actually much easier and faster. So let's start with that. And for doing anything, actually, we need to write a function. So we have what we are returning here. So this will be rendered on screen. We have the state variables where we will store the data. Now we need to start writing functions. And that would be the function number 1. So get Beacon deposit contract balance. The way you do that is that you write const and then function name, fetch Beacon contract balance, and then it's going to be async because it will take time to get information, so it needs to be asynchronous. And we are, for that, we need to get the provider, which is the API that we have from QuickNode. And that's how you use that process.env. So we don't need to hard code the RPC API endpoint here. We have set it up in the .env.local, and that's how we get it from there. So this code will be, for example, in the repository, but all that anybody will see is this variable, which is not helpful, so you cannot copy. And then what we want to do is we want to get the balance and use the method get balance. And then again, it's a method from QuickNode. You have get balance here. Get balance method. You provide the address of either the smart contract or an individual wallet, and you get back the balance in ETH for that specific wallet. So this is the way to get from the, maybe I'll make it larger. This is the way to get that balance and to read from JSON RPC method, which is easier and faster. And then once we have that balance, that's where we start using our state variables. So we have that balance. We get that information from blockchain. We need to store it somewhere. And the way to do that is to store it in the state variable, which we have here. Set total balance. So total balance is for reading, and what we set and what we store in the balance in the variable, and set is for writing. So we are writing into the total balance variable our balance that we have got as a reply from this function. Now, once we have that information, we need to display it. And we have the function, it's running. Let's see if it doesn't return any error. It doesn't. So it's nice. Now we have read that, and we are ready to display it. Let's go to daisyUI again to see which component would be best for displaying some data. So let's see components. Components card. Card would be nice. Probably not. So let's see. Progress stat. Stat probably is fine. This looks like something that we want. So some name of the stat and the number. And that's what we do. So with each component that we want to do, we go to here and we just copy, paste this, and then replace with the data that we want to show. But also because we don't want to show this like empty table without the number, like zeros here, we want to show this item, this component, only when the total balance that we have here is non-empty. The way to do that is that we are showing, so we are creating a condition. So if total balance is greater than 0, then everything that is beyond this point, we are displaying. So that's what we will be displaying. If total balance is 0 or not set, then all of this is not being displayed at all. And what we are showing here is total beacon contract balance. We are calling the stat, and then total balance. We have total balance with all the zeros, like 18 decimal points. That's how Ethereum is being presented. So we first of all parse it as integer, because as we can see from documentation from ETHCAT balance, what we are returning result is hexadecimal value. So we are getting a hexadecimal value in return, and we need to convert it to decimal. The way to do it is we parse it into an integer. We divide by 1 and 18 zeros so that we have the number in ETH. And the way I like to do it is also to locale string function, which is, and we are not defining the locale, so whatever you have set in your browser will be used as that default. So it will make a number look nice. So it will add, like, if it's 1,000,000, it will add all the commas between the thousands. It will add the decimal points. So instead of having like 20 decimal places, we can say that minimum fraction digits is 4. So we will be seeing the nicely formatted number with 4 fraction digits. And
Where does to locale string come from? Is that in JavaScript?
function?
Oh,
that's
cool.
a JavaScript function.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah. What we want to do is to have a button that will call that function. So we will have a few buttons here that we will use later on. So for that, we will need a couple functions. So let's create the dummies here. Fetch data. Let's have it empty for now. And calculate data. Data, let's have it empty. Errors now. I'll calculate with the leaderboard. And let's calculate leaderboard empty function for now. Boom. So we created 3 buttons. 2 for now are disabled that we will use later on. And this button is what we'll call the function. And again, this button is from daisyUI. This is also from daisyUI, like the header element. I will not focus on that. So you can easily copy paste. And now the button element. So this one is calculate data. So this is how you do that. So this will be the first button. Button type is submit. We want to submit that button to call the function. What happens when you click on that? When you click on that, you will call the function fetch data. And this is how the button is going to look. So primary button, so primary color, M2, this is the margin, normal case, or it could be uppercase or normal case. So that's what will display this button. So this button here, when we press this button, it will call fetch data. Fetch beacon contract. Okay, so let's, it will call fetch data, which we need to fill now. For now, we don't fetch yet validators. We only run this command, fetch beacon contract balance, which is right here. And we are not displaying it because it's 0, but if we click on that, boom. And that's almost instantaneous, but that's because we are connecting to QuickNode, which is as fast as localhost. So basically, we have read the data from blockchain. We have connected to blockchain. We have read this smart contract. So we connected to this smart contract address. We have read the balance. We have formatted the data, and we have displayed in here. So that's what we have at the end of the day, is that we are showing the total beacon contract balance. So we now first read information from Ethereum blockchain. Now we want to read information from Beaconchain. Okay, and now let's then run quickly through what we want to do. We want to fill these functions. So we want to fetch all the validators using this. So we have 2 methods available. One with just validator balances, but that's not enough. It only gives you index and balance, but we want more with all the information. So we are getting fetch validators, and it gives you index balance status, and also gives the information on each specific validator, like the public key, the withdrawal credentials, effective balance, is it slashed or not, everything else like activation, everything. So we want to get all the data and then to start play with it. So let's go quicker. So we want for that to happen when we click on our first button. So when we click on fetch validator data, so we first will display that contract balance on Ethereum, but then we will also fetch all the validators from Beaconchain. And fetch validators, it's a little bit more involved function, but not by much. Fetch validators, what it does is, first of all, it's a try and catch. So you try to do something, and if it goes through, then you set the data into validator's state variable. If it doesn't go through, then it catches an error and displays an error and sets the validators to empty array. So what we're doing is that we are running, actually, that accessing the URL that we have seen here. So we are running this URL and getting all that more than 500,000 entries by using the fetch method from JavaScript. So we are fetching the URL just as the browser would do, and we are providing the specific URL. So the method for that URL. So first of all, you need to provide your API endpoint up to this point, and after that, it's ETH v1 beacon states head validator balances. Actually, validators, because we don't want just validators, and that's exactly how we present. So first of all, the variable that we are reading from our .env.local, and then the rest of the method, the rest of the URL here. And after we get that, what we do next is that .then we get the response and we parse it into a JSON. So we will get a JSON as a return with all the information there. And what we will do with that JSON is that it will be stored in validators. We will display it in console, and we will set in the state variable validators. So we will have the validators here. Now we need to, first of all, show how many of those validators we are going to get. Then we will do more magic with it, because we will have all the data in the validators variable, and we will be able to do all the calculations. So the only thing that will take a long time is fetching those validators. Once we have that, we'll have it locally. We'll have it on our machine. We will be able to do all the calculations much more quickly, even if it's like more than 500,000 entries. So to display it is now, so we have total balance here, and the same thing we do is that we display this stat, and that's almost exactly the same code here for front end from daisyUI. We are just showing the different here validators. So we are playing with validators, and here we're playing with total balance. And here we do not want to show any decimals, because this is the number of validators, so it's an integer, and we just want to show it properly. So this is how quickly we get the ETH. And now in the background, first of all, it has an empty array, and now it's getting all the validators from Beaconchain. Boom, now we have all of that. So we have more than 500,000 validators. And here it's in console log, even if we want, we can, it's like by tens of thousands, and we can access each and every one of them. And for each one of them, we can maybe see all the data that we have for each validator. So for each validator, we have balance, index, and all the information about the validator is activation, epoch, effective balance, public key, and everything else. So this is what we already now have in our app that we can start playing with. And everything else will be happening almost immediately, very quickly, because we already fetched the data. This happens once, unless we want to reload the page and go through the fetching again, which will take, like the fetching is like, what, 10, 15 seconds. Everything else is almost instantaneous. So I'll copy paste the rest, and I will try to explain. So, okay, so this is what we have. And right now, all the code is in there. We'll go through it now quickly without writing it. But as you can see, it does not display. Oh, a couple things that I like to do is, first of all, as you can see, this icon at the top, this is the Vercel default icon. This is the fav icon, and the footer as well. What I like to do is I like my apps to look mine, and to have all the icons, fav icons, whatever else, to be not the default, but the ones that I chose. and I created some. So you go into public. So this is the one that is being displayed. I don't want that. I want to replace it with my own. So I have created this one. I will drop it here. I will replace it the one that is here. So this is like a, let's say, beacon that it will be replaced and also powered by QuickNode so that we can put it into the footer. I like to customize my apps. It doesn't take much effort, but it looks much nicer. So
Wow.
we already have a beacon. We have powered by QuickNode. So this is what I usually use. So you'll have any image that you have. It can be a huge image. As long as it's like more or less square, you go here, it generates everything for you. You select your image, you put it here, and then it generates all the sizes for you, all the images, all the code, even that to copy paste. Everything else, you just like download all the code and all the images that you need for five icon to put into your app, and you don't need to worry. You have everything ready in like 2 minutes. So that's exactly what I have done with these beacon icon, which is here right now. So we have that. We have powered by QuickNode. So I've set the footer again. So that's the footer where you have the footer. So daisyUI. So that's what we use all the time. Footer is it's here. It's really easy. You have a few ones that you can choose from. Either this one with many links or this one with a few columns. I chose this one as the simplest one with just one line. But yeah, depending on your needs, or even colorful one, you just choose what you want. Just copy the JSX, delete what you don't need, customize the rest, and that's what you get. So we have that, and nothing that is not being populated yet is not displaying. Even the buttons to calculate validator data, to show the leaderboard, even the buttons are disabled. But as we click on that, first of all, what we do is we fetch this part we have seen already. We are fetching from Ethereum, which is almost instantaneous. Second, we are fetching like 500,000 of entries. And as we have done, then 2 more buttons automatically become active. And the way you do that is with a button. There are 3 buttons that we have here. The first one, we already saw how to do that. So that's the first one button. And the second and third is that, first of all, you, again, say type submit, on click, you define which function you want to run, class name, similar, and this is the line that makes it disabled or enabled. So disabled equals, and then you have a condition. If validators array length is more than 0, then disabled is false, which means that it's enabled. But if its validator's length is still not populated and it's 0, then then disabled equals true. It means that what we have seen previously is grayed out, it's not clickable. And the same with the second here. So if validator's length is more than 0, false and true. So we are creating conditions to either display and make something active or not. So once we have that, we can start playing with our data. So with this, let's come back to documentation here. We have a lot that we can play with. So we don't have just the balances. We also have the statuses for validators. So the validators can be either pending initialized or pending queued, or active ongoing, which is the most common one, active exiting, active slashed, and some of those will make sense only when unstaking will start to happen in March after Shanghai upgrade. So some of them will be zeros, like exited. It's not possible to exit yet. So exited will be zeros. But as it will be ongoing, the numbers will grow automatically. So I wanted to have all the statuses and to sum all the values for each and every status. So the way to do that is that, so some validator statuses. So we have the validators. And what we do is that we create, for each status, we create a variable. And for each variable, we just like filter that whole array and filter by validator, and we get what it is. Validator status is pending initialized. And for each one, we are creating a filter. So basically, a new array with just the values for that specific status. And then for each of those arrays, we are using the reduce function, which is actually taking all the values and just adding to each other and returning the sum. And that's what we will be showing. And the showing will be done the similar way that we have shown this. We'll just change the color, and when we click that, boom. So that's a few things happening here. So this is the sum of all the validator balances taken from the Beaconchain. So we are summing that like 519,000. So we summed all the balances. As you can see, it's a little larger than what is in the contract on Ethereum. There is an explanation for that. We'll get to it in a minute. And then for each status, we are getting, so pending is probably what is being staked right now, and soon will become active. So 275 ETH is being staked at the moment, or is being in pending status. This is, the vast majority is active ongoing right now. And as I have said, like active exiting is 0 for now. Active slashed, all exited and slashed, all the zeros, which will start populate once the unstaking will start, once the Shanghai will start in March, which is not yet confirmed the exact date. So that's what we have for statuses. And the last thing that we want to do is to present the leaderboard. And then for the leaderboard, we have that validators, that huge array with 500,000 entries. And again, we want to play with that array. So this is where we store that array. And to display the leaderboard, some validator statuses, we have looked at it already. And fetch data, calculate leaderboard. So that's exactly what we have here. So again, leaderboard, we are again operating on the validators array, and we are sorting it. So we are not filtering it in any way. We want to have all the entries. We are just sorting the entries so that we have the ones with the balances, with the highest balances at the top. And then we are slicing it to only display the first 300 entries. And once we have that, we are storing that in the leaderboard state variable again, which we will display then in a table. Again, if we want to display in a table, we go to daisyUI. We look at tables and which one do we want. So this one is quite large, quite tall. This one, I don't like this one, but we don't have any photos. But this one is nice and compact. So we want to use this one. So again, very simple code. You just take this and update the variables that you have, update the code, and you get the leaderboard displayed in a very nice fashion for you. So leaderboard here. Again, it's only displayed when leaderboard length of array is more than 0. as we have seen before, if it's 0, then we are not showing anything. We're just showing the button to fetch the data for us and to start playing with it. First, we are saying, okay, this is the leaderboard. We will be displaying these fields, so rank from 1 to 300, index, balance, and public key. And for public key, so index is easy. We are just displaying index. So yeah, we are mapping over the leaderboard array here. So taking each item in the array one by one and doing something with it. So for each item, that's what the map function does. For each item, we are displaying the row in the table. So this row will be displayed for each and every item in the leaderboard array. So we are showing the number. So number 1, 2, 3, up to 300, validator index, and then validator balance, which again, we are displaying in a nice way to locale string with 4 fraction digits. And then what I wanted to do is, because we are displaying the leaderboard, maybe we want to see the more details for each and every item that we are interested in. And the way it works is that each index, that's not Beaconscan, this is Beaconscan. Validators, leaderboard. So each index has works like this, that index number, and it has a URL like this, Beaconscan validators, and then this is what we have fetched. This is the public key that we have in our array that we can use. And that's what I'm doing. I'm creating a link for each and every item that will open exactly this for each and every entry, each and every validator in the leaderboard, for us to have a look at. Okay, so this looks interesting. Let's have a look at the details. And that's about it. We are displaying that, and this is the footer that we have already seen with the powered by QuickNode. And let's see what happens when we click on show leaderboard. So the show leaderboard is just calling that leaderboard function and then displaying that. So what will happen is that it will already operate on the data that we have locally. So it will not fetch again. So it will be quite quick. And it will show the table below. And here's the leaderboard. So we have the rank from 1 to 300. We have the index, which is more or less the lower the index, the earlier they staked. So there's also index number 1 somewhere here down there. And then we have the balance. So this is 68 ETH. And the public key. If we want, we can click on every item here and it opens the window in Beaconscan. And now whatever we want to do. We want to have a look why it's 68 if we can only stake 32. Let's click on that and we can see that overview, there were 2 deposits, 32 ETH for each. And that's why it's 64, which it probably shouldn't be, but that's how it was at the beginning. So it's showing as 68 at the moment because of accrued staking rewards. And as we get lower, there are less of those 64s, and we are getting to 30 somethings, which, so we are starting with 36s. And there's even, the very first staked one. We can even open this. The very first staked on Beaconchain, 2 deposits, interestingly, one for 31 ETH, one for 1 ETH, which is also unusual. So we can, start looking at
interesting
data. And that's it. So that's the app. And because we have this in Next.js, because we have all the data in env.local, we can go to Vercel And very quickly, maybe let's Vercel deploy. I will not go through this process, but deploying to Vercel. This takes a couple of minutes. You need to upload this to Git, the code repository, and then you configure the code repository in Vercel. You pull that code in, and you configure maybe like a couple things. And then you have a live URL app running. And I did that. I did exactly that just before our call, just before our workshop. And I couldn't help myself. I bought the domain and I put it on the domain. So
Great. What
validator
is it?
love
Stop.
is, it's like, that's exactly it, what we have been building. It's fresh. It's like 2 hours old domain, 2
Wow.
hours old site. And this is
Wow.
exactly what, and it's live. It's not on my local host anymore. It's on Vercel. You can see how quick it is. Now is the only slow part where it's getting 500,000 elements here. Now we can calculate the validator data, slice and dice it, show the leaderboard, and show the validator lab. It's in here. So in a couple of hours, you can go from 0 to this with a few things, like a few defaults, a few templates, like Tailwind CSS, daisyUI, QuickNode to get all this data quickly and efficiently from blockchain to your app, and then present it in a nice way for 2 hours. I think that's perfect. I don't want anything better for 2 hours. And you can even deploy that and even put it on the separate domain within couple hours. So if you have a hackathon for like 2 days, 3 days, you spend your time not on fighting the infrastructure, not on fighting the display and how it looks, or is it Arial or whatever else, or is it like white background and black text and nothing else and blue links. But you spend a couple hours on the presentation layer, which already looks great. And then you can spend the rest of your time on your app, on your idea, on your logic, on your quality of code and everything else. What else? Let me show you the code for that. It's on GitHub. You can get the code in the repository, github.com velvet/shark beacon validators. And there's a short explanation what it is. Shows the totals, shows the number of validator entries, and so on, and all the code that we went through today. It's as you can see, it works both on Validator Lab and Beacon Validators Vercel app. It's hosted on Vercel, so it takes a couple minutes. So take it, play with it, go through all the steps that we have gone together, and then start adding more functions, start adding more functionality, start making it look even more beautiful. And good luck with your hackathon and with your projects.
Radek, you get a sitting ovation for that. That was absolutely fantastic.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
A couple. Don't run away just yet. I have a lot of love and gratitude and follow up to give you. First of all, I threw a QR code on stream that folks can scan with a link to the GitHub repo. Please make sure you grab that so that you can play with it later. I already have one pull request I intend to make. It's just a small little change, but something I think
awesome. I'll be happy to see it.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to like sort of summarize what we did here, because as Beam Me Up Now said, we're on the shoulders of giants. This is, as I said in the beginning, a steep set of learning curves, a bunch of different things. We've got JavaScript and React and Next.js. We've got, client side, we've got server side. Now we're bringing in the blockchain elements using QuickNode to query the data. We had the JSON RPC call. We had the CURL version of like the fetch. In other words, different ways of getting the data into the app. And then we had a variety of like JavaScript array methods to process the data. So I just want to say, if anyone has been watching and is impressed but maybe overwhelmed or confused, that That's a very common feeling, especially when your approach to learning is to dive into seeing a bunch of pieces used together at the same time. Like the example I've heard of this is like people not knowing the difference between JavaScript and React, because the first time they ever used JavaScript was in the context of React, so they don't know which one's what. That's part of why I was asking you questions earlier. I was like, wait, where does that method come from? You were like, that's straight out of JavaScript. I was like, okay. So it's okay if you don't know where some of this syntax comes from right now. You could just kind of like squint your eyes and just play with the pieces and hack at the repo and make changes to like color, for example, if you want to mess with styling, or like to the number of decimals that get displayed, or instead of doing these as cards, to do them as a table instead. Those are things you could do because all the logic is already set up. QuickNode has done a fantastic job of making it pretty straightforward to query the data, and also done a fantastic job with the documentation with those code snippets. I really appreciate that, because that's the kind of thing that me and some folks in our community wouldn't even know how to do. There was a question that Beam Me Up Now tried to answer, but I'm curious if you have any other thoughts. Is there a library to handle a bunch of wallets? In other words, is there a front end library that, for example, Rainbow Kit, that folks
Yeah,
can use
Rainbow
to
Kit
do
is
the connecting to
one
wallets?
that I like. The other one, and they have V2 now, is Wallet Connect. This is great, and they have a new version that is really great. Explore wallets and apps. So there are like tens or hundreds of those. And Web3 model specifically for to use in apps. So this is exactly what you get. So when you use Web3 model, this is like part of Wallet Connect. When you use that, you just this is what you get. You just enter a few lines of code and just configure a couple things, and you get all those wallets. You
Beautiful.
view all of wallets. Yeah, you have plenty, and you can configure all of them. What you want to display, what you don't want to display, and that's just a way to connect to your app without you doing all the heavy lifting, and with as many wallets as possible. So for using in-app, either Web3 model or it's version 2.0, or Rainbow Kit, which is similar to this in functionality and the number of wallets that they have.
So I hope folks are feeling some wind in their sails hearing this. I personally, every time I see a demonstration like this, it like pull pieces together from scratch, right? You literally went create next app, install Tailwind and daisyUI, and then did a little copy pasting of the components themselves. But that's the kind of thing that folks would do over the course of 3 to 10 days at
Exactly.
ETHDenver.
And as you can see, so these are all the same components. You just like copy paste one, change one couple lines of code. First of all, to change the color from this is like primary color, this is secondary color, and you just like change that one word from primary to secondary, and then just update what you want. You just like slice the data by, you show like pending initialized, which you already have in the function name, and the rest for you is all here, all you're ready to use, with like table, all the elements like footers, everything. I didn't write anything from scratch.
Yeah.
I hope it was worth it.
It was more than worth it. This was essentially a start to finish tutorial on making like dApp with a lot of pieces. I appreciate that you didn't leave anything out. You started at the beginning, brought in the frameworks that you thought you wanted to use, and like explain what they did along the way. And we're all the way here at something that's definitely like demo ready for a Biddle-a-thon or a hackathon like ETHDenver. So I appreciate that. It was robust. This is definitely the most I've ever gone over on something like this, but it was intentional because every step of this was worth it. And for folks that feel like we went a little fast during, especially towards the end there, when you did like the copy paste for the whole thing to like add some of the logic for the table, that's what the repo's for. Go check it out. And if you've got
Exactly,
any
exactly.
questions, you can
And if
open
anything is
something in the
not clear,
discussion.
I'm here to answer all the
You
questions.
can yell at him on Twitter.
Do it.
Thank you so much for your time, Radek. I'm going to make us big here.
Yeah, I had a blast. I had a blast. So I'm happy to put it online. I'm happy to put it on validator.love. I don't regret buying the domain. It's live. It's for people
.love's
to play
custom.
with.
That was probably $15 or something. I don't know.
Probably something like that. Yeah.
Please join me in saying goodbye to everyone in our traditional style. Give everyone a big bye.
Oh, that's what we're doing. Okay, bye.
That's what we do.